Hello, hello, and welcome to Journey to SEA 2025. This is your host, Shelley-Ann Edwards Barron, your creative writing specialist here to talk about reports, narratives, and comprehension. And for those of you who are new, thank you for joining, and welcome back to those who have been following this series. I appreciate you both. And just a quick note about myself for those who are watching for the first time. I focus on something called multisensory learning. And what that means is that I look at multiple different ways for students to engage with writing and learning about writing in ways that are fun, that focus on engaging all of the senses. We try for it at once or, in at different points in time. So we do experiments, we do games, and all different types of activities to make learning about writing feel little less stressful than it can be. And so that's what this series is all about as well, making sure that you have what you need to support your child or your students with them learning about reports and narratives and comprehension, because comprehension is like two sides of the same coin, right? With the writing. So what I really try to do is to go into as much detail as I can within the time that I have so that you can have the information that you need. I also work on creating lots of worksheets. So those that work for me and my students in my classes, I package them and I make them available to you. So if you're looking for worksheets for reports, narratives, and comprehension, let me know. You can reach out. My number is going to be at the bottom of the screen when I share the slides, which let's get to that right now. And so, yeah, it's not on this slide, it's on the other one. I'll show you in a bit. So this week we're looking at reported speech and competition reports, story beginnings and action and adventure stories, as well as we're going to take another look at fiction. All right, so let's get started. And as usual, this week's reminders. So always go back to the basics. It's not about being busy, it's about using time wisely. And that means focusing on one thing at a time. And sometimes a break is needed. So, going back to the basics, sometimes we make the assumption that because students are advancing with their skills and advancing with their writing, that they don't necessarily need a reminder of the foundation concepts. Students always need reminders. So that's something that I think we need to check in from time to time, make sure they know these things and are able to rattle it off easily. Um, and then it's not about being busy, it's about using time wisely and focusing on one thing at a time. Sometimes when we have so much to do, we can get into the bad situation of starting some things and then getting distracted and starting something else. It's not always easy to complete one task before we move on to another, but we really should try to do that and not try to tackle too many things at once. Because again, it's better to choose three and do them perfectly than to tackle six and do all of them halfway. So really get a schedule done if you haven't already done that. You might need to revise it. Things change so that you can get a schedule that works for you, and then make sure that you're using the time wisely, focusing on what matters the most. And in between all of this, yes, exam is around the corner. We still do need breaks. We are human. We need to rest. We need to eat. We need to exercise. We need to do the things that keep us healthy. The exam is going to come and go, and the effects of it, if we don't take care of ourselves, is not that would stay a lot longer. The exam will come and go, and then we would still be feeling the repercussions. So we do want to take care of ourselves and take a break as needed. All right. So yeah, as the saying goes, wood to the wise. All right, so let's get started with the report writing and looking at reported speech and competition reports. So a reminder about the important things where reported speech is concerned. So reported speech, that's like indirect speech. I call it reported speech, old school. I think they call it indirect speech now. Um, so in a report, while we don't want to use dialogue, which is the quotation marks and all those things, we still would benefit from reporting about what participants say in a report. So we really want to pay attention to how to do that effectively. And the way to do it is through the structure of reported speech. And so you want to be selective. It's not like everything somebody says is worth reporting. You want to just get like the main ideas and so on. And so when you're doing that, we want to pay attention to punctuation, pronouns, the verb tense, and the vocabulary. So I've used this example before. Oh, and I should have changed that. So let me just pause here for a bit. One of the things that I added in because I had this um example in different formats. So I'm doing the abbreviated version in the session today because like I said, we've done this over and over before. So if you want to get the full details, then you can go back to the session. Like I said, when you do it's all recorded on YouTube. So you can actually go to YouTube and search the channel is Word Coach Limited and search for reported speech, and you would get the previous episodes. I think it's episode 8 and 9 when I looked at reported speech in a lot more detail. And so you could check on that, but definitely go to the channel, do the search in the lives, and the information would come up. So, right. So let's go back and you would see what I changed was said. I changed it to indicated because what I added in this note is that you want to edit the words to use more formal vocabulary. So not because the person spoke in a particularly casual way that you're supposed to report exactly what they're saying. This is not direct speech. Direct speech would say exactly what the person said, in which case you use whatever language they use. And that works really well for narratives. Reports, on the other hand, we just want the main idea. And so that's why we're summarizing it and kind of putting it into our own words. And so you need to what some people might call sanitize the language and edit the words to be more formal. So, like, example, John said, I am going back to class. Now, going back is a pretty casual way to say it. And then, of course, there are more formal ways to say that someone is speaking. So instead of using said, we're going to use indicated, and that's the word that I changed. So now what we're looking at is instead of John said, I am going back to class, we're going to have John indicated he was returning to class. And so much more formal by changing going back to returning and said to indicated. And of course, well, all the other conventions of reported speech would apply. So no quotation marks, so we take those out. Um, we're removing the comma and by said, so well, now it's indicated. So we're removing the comma. See the comma here? There's no comma there. Pronouns, I changed to he because when John is speaking, he's referring to himself by using I. But when we're reporting on what John said, we're going to be using he because we're talking about John in third person. All right. And then we want present tense change to past tense. And then, of course, like I said, the vocabulary upgrade. All right, so this is something that you want to just double check on this week, see whether or not students are indicating or utilizing reported speech in their writing. If they're not, it's a good idea because the paragraphs 4 and 5, where, we're coming down to the end of things and we're wrapping it up, sometimes the things that the writer might want to say in those two paragraphs would come across a lot better if it's in reported speech. And of course, right throughout the whole thing, making announcements and whatnot, reported speech works really well. Okay. Competition reports, here are the reminders. Um, Competitions, any situation where we have prizes and winners. The thing with competitions is that you can have individual competitions and team competitions, and the language and the way they are reported is slightly different because, of course, if you're talking about a team competition, you want to mention more than one participant, just not one person only. You do need to reference the team as and include, like specifically to one or two, different um members of the team, what they did kind of thing. I'll say two or three, not one or two, because you want to have more than one. In an individual sport, it's just the one player, but in a team sport, you have multiple players. So, they might pass things to each other, support each other, assist each other, different things. So those are considerations when you're looking at an individual versus team sport. All right. Um, if you can, depending on the type of sport it is, you'd want to indicate the top three winners. And then, of course, yeah, know the difference between that individual and team and how you would report on both. All right. So this week, before, during, after, you want to pay attention to the content. Competitions is not, you know, we don't usually write a lot about competitions, so students might not know how to describe things. So you want to go through that again, make sure they can. Review vocabulary and terminology for competition. So if it's a football match, they should know different terms for football match. For football, if it's cricket, know those terms. Whatever the competition is, just give them a briefing on some of the reminder, some of the things that they should know um, when dealing with those kinds of competitions. And then, of course, you want to have the child complete an entire competition report, beginning to end, all 5 paragraphs, and you go through that. And you'd be checking for vocabulary, spelling, etc., the content. Make sure you have enough information throughout all of this. And of course, the report planning, again, you have, when you put it all together with the 15 full-length planning worksheets and 10 quick planning, that's 25 worksheets, meaning 25 different prompts, and I've grouped them so you get um I focused on 5 types of reports in this one. So you get like 5 prompts in each category. So you get 5 incident, 5 accident, 5 competition, 5 activities, and 5 events. And so that would help you kind of focus in on the different kinds of reports. And then, of course, you have the notes and different things that would help support an understanding there. So, like I said, it's really worth the effort. And then we have the um, 5 reports challenge where you get sample reports and prompts again. So if you get those two, so that last one and this one, between them, you'd get over 40 prompts that you could really buckle down and practice with. I mean, you can do like 2 a week. We have about I think 8 weeks or so left. And so you could really do two, three a week to really practice. Do some planning with some, do full writing with some, um, spot check introductions with some, so there's a lot that you can do if you get these two. Okay, let's see. So we're on to narratives now. And with this one, we're looking at story beginnings and the action and adventure type of story. So let's see. Um, I was trying to figure out, an acronym that could really help students remember what to put in an introduction because sometimes I know it's like they know, but then they don't know kind of thing. So I imagine that when they're finished with their plotting, and that should take them 5 minutes or less, that there's the word charm for character physical description. There's the word flavor for the setting description, and then there is flair. And that's going to help the student with remembering what goes into an introduction, and you can even have them follow the order. So, like, if a student is really, really struggling and you have to give them a template, they can write like one sentence for each letter and get a very robust one, 5 sentence introduction. So they start by focusing the reader, which is the hook, and you can show them different types of hooks. They could memorize one format, um, lay out the setting. So then you could add some more details about the setting. Now, when you're adding details about the setting, especially if you're going to do back-to-back setting descriptions in case your hook is a setting, um, you want to give different aspects of it. So if you talk about what you saw in the first sentence, then you want to talk about what you heard, and so on in the next one. So actually, if you could use the really descriptive sentence, and I have a worksheet on a very complete descriptive sentence that has two descriptions and two actions in it, and there's a template the student can follow. And then once they get that template, they can just fill in details as needed. You can use that to focus the reader, and then you can add more information about the setting by showing the characters interacting with the setting. And then you want to add reasons. So adding reasons means, why are the characters where they are? What does the character want? What's the reason for them doing what they're doing? And those kinds of things in one sentence or two, depending on the kind of story that you're writing, and then revealing the main character with a character description. And that's why we're using the word reveal. So you're not just identifying or telling who the main character is, you are revealing the main character. So you're showing the main character using a physical character description. And then you end the paragraph by making a statement that would really excite readers and get them thinking, ooh, drama is coming, Um, that kind of foreshadowing really gets the story going. Or you could probably even introduce the first problem and then use your paragraph two to start explaining and showing reactions to that first problem that was identified at the end of the sentence. So either you hint at the problem or actually give the problem, and then you explore more of that in paragraph two, right? Oops. Um, Okay, I'll pick that up after. All right, so now on to action and adventure stories. The thing with action and adventure stories that make them action and adventure is the fact that there's a lot of risk involved in the story. So whether it's somebody, on a hike climbing a mountain or, and they could fall and get damaged or something, or they're being chased, or there's some um conflict that creates a lot of drama for the characters. The idea is that, there's this sort of nail-biting kind of edge of your seat suspense, and you're wondering what's gonna happen next all the time. That's the whole feeling you want to get for action and adventure. And it means, no, this is the same for all stories, but especially true for action and adventure. The solutions cannot come easily, right? The readers need to get the sense that the main character really has to fight and to work for this solution because there's a lot of danger and there's risk. And so they have to keep taking risks. The main character has to keep taking risks and keep making the decisions that put them in harm's way because there's a solution coming eventually. All right. And so with this one, I do have a worksheet with the description in action that kind of helps with this type of story. Of course, it works with all stories, but the action and adventure story, it really helps to keep the descriptions and the action happening at the same time. And so there's 7 worksheets, and then I put like blank templates so that you could create your own, because once you see the format, you could duplicate it and create your own. Lots of detailed notes on what description and action is and how to do it, step-by-step guidelines, and then of course examples so students can follow. So if your child is still writing stories that you might consider to be a little bit boring, this is going to help a lot. This and the other one with the character description and the one with flavor, you can get the package, all three for a reduced price. So message me, let me know what it is you're looking for, what you need, and we can work things out. All right. And yes, there's still the 7 stories challenge where you get samples, prompts, worksheets, lots of information. You get the plotting guide as well in here. Okay, so finally we're rounding off today's discussion with fiction, comprehension, details, and strategies. So let's see. So we know fiction is to entertain, to teach a lesson, like moral of the story kind of thing. And when it comes to fiction texts, in comprehension, they follow plot. So in a fiction comprehension, you'll get characters, you'll get descriptions, you get rising action, you get conflict. Some of them give you resolution, some of them don't, because it's like, maybe it could be an excerpt of a longer story. So you might not get like a complete resolution and falling action and all those things, or climax even, but you do get some rising action and there's always going to be some kind of conflict. Yeah. And so the thing with comprehension for fiction is that you're going to get questions on characters, questions on the figurative language and sensory details. You'd see lots of dialogue. There was one of the past papers where more than three-quarter of the story was told in dialogue. Very few details written otherwise. And so this is something that readers should be familiar with, and how to interpret characters' actions, how to review how one character thinks and feels about another one. Those are the kinds of things that you want to get in fiction comprehension. So again, if you want to, I did go into these things in a lot more detail in previous episodes. So go back to those episodes. So go to YouTube, do the search, and you can get the topic. So I actually, before I came on, I did a couple searches to see what it was like. And so I typed in reported speech, for example, and that's how I know episodes 8 and 9. I mean, I could check the schedule as well and to tell you, but it's a whole lot easier just to tap, 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 and get the correct episodes, and you're already in YouTube and it'll come up. So all you'd have to do is to click on it to view the previous episodes. All right. Um, Activities this week. We want to review purpose, plot, characters, review evaluation and appreciation questions. Now, while the SEA format is such that you would get a standard amount of evaluation appreciation, I think it's like two evaluation, two appreciation, and then three, well, I think is two literal, one inferential, something along those lines. If you want to be sure, check the what is it? What is it? The 2025 to 2028 um assessment framework. It actually tells you you're getting 7 questions for poetry and it's going to be breaking up like this. So there are lots of details so you can really prepare for answering questions. But there are lots of evaluation and appreciation questions that students don't know how to answer. And so review these and take a look at examples of them and how to answer them properly. All right. And so you can do that in, getting my answers to the past papers. And these passages come with answers as well, so that you can see, okay, this is an evaluation question. How do you answer it effectively? And especially with appreciation and evaluation questions, you get the understanding that there are usually two parts to the answer, the actual answer and then the reason for the answer. So students need to remember those things. And so you can practice and actually see what answers could look like by getting these two things together. One is 200 for, so 150 plus 50, that's $200, and you're getting, well, 2019 to 2024, that's 6 years. And then these new ones where you also get the answers. So if you haven't already gotten it, if you have, I'd love to get your feedback. Let me know how it worked for you. And, go to my Facebook page and leave a review. It'll be nice for others to understand how the answers would work. All right. And most definitely reach out, let me know, especially if you see something that's like, oh, no, this looks like an error, let me know so I could make a change. Now, these are all digital documents, so I could easily make changes if there are any issues. So feel free, let me know. I won't be embarrassed. Well, yeah, I would feel really bad that it went out and I didn't see it. Um, but when you create things, seeing the issues yourself doesn't quite happen. And, of all the people who read it, I have made some changes over the time, but somebody new is going to see something new. It always works out. And this is why students need to learn how to revise and edit when they're writing. Yeah? This is just an aside. Um, it's a skill that you have to practice. It's easy for me to read somebody else's work and see the issues because I'm a fresh pair of eyes. When I write something, my eyes would not see it. That's why even editors, when they write books, they need separate editors. You can't edit your own book and expect it to be as effective as possible because you do need different perspectives and fresh pairs of eyes. So all of that to say, reach out, don't feel it's going to be an issue. Let me know. All right. Um, and that is it. Yeah. And we're done with episode um 36 of Journey to SEA 2025. I was checking the schedule earlier and I think we're going up to 44. So just about 8 more weeks, indeed, 8 more episodes. The exam is on the 10th of April, so we're heading into the home stretch. But don't worry about it. Remember, pace yourself, take a break, um, do the things, do the practice. schedule the practice. It's not like I know students are doing lots and lots of things at school, but at home, you want to see what's going on at school and fill in where teachers might be leaving open because teachers are dealing with a really heightened schedule right now. And so they themselves might be a little bit overwhelmed in the situation. So, support at home by doing the extra practice, getting feedback. You can post in SEA, Peaceful Approach, you know, can I get answers to these questions, to this comprehension? Here's a sample of my child's writing. Can I get feedback? If you actually check in some of the pinned posts, I think I pinned a report and a narrative that you could see other writing and see what it looks like. If you want to see an actual student's writing, you can check in the group. So SEA, the Peaceful Approach. If you're not already a member, please join. I know some people come in at YouTube and so on. So if you're not already a member, definitely join. It is worth being in such a supportive group. All right. And so thank you so much for your time, for your comments, for the feedback, for checking out the resources. Let me know what you need and I'll see how much I can help. Okay. So we're all in this together on the way to SCA 2025. This is Shelley and Edwards Barron signing off of episode 36. So I'll check you next week for episode 37. Come back. We have a lot more that we can talk about between now and the exam. Okay? So have a good one, and I shall see you when I see you. Take care. Bye bye.